Play the music. Play the music. There we go. I don't care about the rest of the hour. We got the best guest of the hour on right now. Let's let it play for a second, Shawn. He's a sexy boy. HBK, Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels is on the phone. Shawn, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm willing to bet that is probably the first time the NRA has ever had music like that on their show before.
Hey, you'd be surprised, my friend. You'd be surprised at the music we play. Well, Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Famer, host of Shawn Michaels' McMillan River Adventures is on the phone right now. Shawn, I was telling my co-host here, John Pop, how I've talked to many people in the past. I've done this a long time, but I was giddy to talk to you, and being a 40-year-old man and being excited about the fact that I'm going to the Capital Punishment pay-per-view here in Washington this weekend. I'm sure you meet a lot of guys like me. Do we creep you out, or is it flattering that we love it so much?
No, it is. It's flattering. It really is. I mean, I've had 25 years to get used to it, and I'm still not used to it. But it's actually. It's very cool. I mean, I'm glad that people, have generally enjoyed it and understand it and get it and aren't ashamed of it in that respect.
It's funny because we also had in the last hour Brian Darling, who's with the Heritage Foundation, a right-wing think tank, and we bring him on the phone. How I was just talking about having you on. He's like, "Oh yeah, I love HBK too." He's talking about The Rock, and it's amazing how universal. I mean, it's interesting because you also see stories like the Sci-Fi Channel puts on a wrestling show, and it immediately becomes their #1 show.
Yeah,
the power of your brand is pretty stunning.
Well, no, it really is. I mean, and that's the thing. Again. Over the years, the mainstream folks have never really wanted to recognize the WWE for the unbelievably huge entity that it is worldwide. But it is. I mean, and I have to tell you, being a pretty conservative guy, knowing that one of the guys in the Heritage Foundation, because I know what it is, knows who I am and likes me, I got to tell you, that's pretty cool. I'm a fan of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. We'll get to the show in a second, but we have so many questions for you. What was it like for you to become a member of a Hall of Fame? I mean, John and I will never be in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame.
No.
There's no way. If you've heard our shows in the past, you know for sure. But for you to be in the Hall of Fame of something, what was that moment like for you?
Well, I tell you, I mean, it was incredibly special. I mean, it's all it's like your first world championship, but 100-fold, because it's your line of work. The one thing that you've committed your life to, recognizing you as one of the very elite, and there's a part of you that wants to believe that that it's a possibility that it might be true, but when you get that validation, that affirmation from them, and for me, for it to happen immediately after I retired. I mean, it was even more special in that respect. That it wasn't 5 years later, it wasn't 10 years later, it was less than a year. It was the next possible moment that they could induct me, that they did it, and that for me made it unbelievably special.
Talk about you were talking about how you were conservative. Talk about your conservatism. Are you talking social? Are you talking physical? What kind of a conservative are you?
I'm all across the board. Yeah. I mean, I was raised by a colonel in the Air Force. I'm a born again Christian. I'm what people label as those hard right, Christian righties. I mean,
right.
Although I think I'm a perfectly normal individual, but I'm a card-carrying life member of the NRA. I'm a concealed handgun owner.
Yeah.
I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I'm a registered Republican.
So
people I'm a born again Christian. I'm from a military family. I mean, the odds are stacked against me in a way that it's just not possible for me to accept.
Shawn, you're not only a gun nut, but you're a right-wing nut job too.
The mainstream media hates you, Shawn Michaels.
That's right. Yeah. How could you?
What about?
No. That's what I mean. Yeah, there are a lot of folks that are they're gunning for me now. Pardon the pun.
Shawn, what was it like when you're talking about the WWE locker room? Are you a one of a kind? A lot of I would imagine there's a lot of conservatives in the wrestling world. Maybe I'm wrong, but were you on your own in that, or what other? Tell us some other wrestlers that had your similar interests.
Well, I'm not alone. But there are a lot of things. A lot of guys aren't open, but I would say that, I think there's probably, we're a melting pot. I got to be honest. I mean, we've got a little of everything in every respect. But I mean, I would think that as a whole, the company is very pro-military.
Oh, sure.
Obviously pro-capitalism. and
yeah, Vince likes his money.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that, I mean, if it were to lean one way, and I think in a maybe not in all social aspects, but fiscal aspects, I would say the majority of them are conservative.
It's Cam and Company. John Pop, Cameron Gray sitting in for Cam. We're talking to WWE Hall of Famer, host of Shawn Michaels' McMillan River Adventures on Outdoor Channel. Shawn Michaels is
cool new show.
Cool new show. Tell us about the show, Shawn. Tell us about your history of hunting. You talked to you're a conservative with your life member of the NRA. You're a hunter and a fisher. How did this show come about, and what do you do on it?
Well, it's we don't think it's a hunting show. It's unlike any other show on the Outdoor Channel. It's an outdoor lifestyle show, which is the lifestyle that Keith Mark, my co-host, and I live and live on a regular basis. I mean, obviously, yes, of course, there's hunting involved, but it's about also the things that are near and dear to us, which is our faith, our family, and our country, and also a number of the charities and organizations that we work with. We want it to be more than just a hunting show. We want it to be something with a message, and it's important to both of us. I mean, it's going to be debuts on June 28th on the Outdoor Channel at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Getting that in there, but
good.
But again, like our first show, it has some wrestling elements of it. I mean, it lets you know where I came from, which is the WWE, and where I'm going now. Our second show is a freedom show. It's a tribute. We've got Charlton Heston on it. It's a tribute to the Second Amendment and our freedoms and the military that supports us. And so it's something that I think that the Outdoor Channel has not seen ever, and we're hoping that it makes a huge impact.
Shawn, I got to tell you, sir, you're the first hunting show host that we've had on who was written up in TMZ, and if I may quote TMZ today, who disagrees with your description, by the way, sir. Ex-WWE legend Shawn Michaels is grabbing life by the horns and slaughtering it with a crossbow, killing all sorts of majestic wildlife for a new hunting television show. The show is called Shawn Michaels' McMillan River Adventures, premiering next month. According to the show's rep, Shawn ain't just hunting for sport. The guy actually eats everything he kills. Is that true, Shawn?
It's basically true. For the most part, I do. But also, hundreds of pounds get donated to kitchens and homeless people and homeless shelters, and then, of course, the predators and things of that nature. No, they get eaten by our dogs, probably. So. But you've got to be
it's got to be a special honor for you to be discussed in TMZ, the hub of all things celebrity, right, Shawn?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you have not made it till you've made TMZ. I don't do drugs. I haven't been arrested in 2 decades. I don't cheat on my wife. But God started to get me in there one way or another. So I take that as flattery because they had to put me up there with an animal and not a mugshot.
That's awesome. Shawn, let me ask you this question. We, of course, have Ted Nugent on a lot, and Ted Nugent is different from most rockers, of course. You and he would have a lot of the same interests, but he's also was never into drugs. He was never into drinking. He was always, I guess you would call it straight edge, if I can use a CM Punk reference. Pardon the pun, John.
Sure.
If you would you be in the world of wrestling, because we've all heard the tragic stories of the drug abuse and all the of course the untimely deaths of many of your colleagues. Were you the Ted Nugent of wrestling? Were you able to stay away from all the bad stuff and all the temptations on the road, since you're on the road most of the year?
Well, no. No, honestly, I mean, my story is, I mean, I didn't have near the strength that Nugent did. I mean, I was a guy that wandered down that road and flirted with death and flirted with disaster. And honestly, it was my salvation that brought me out of it and turned my life around. I mean, nothing would thrill me more than to be able to say that I had that strength and the strength that I have now my entire life and my entire career. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't. And I guess that's why I live my life with the passion that I do now, because I was given a second chance, you know, through my salvation, through my family, through the birth of my children, and I've never looked back, and I've never and I've never regretted it, and I've never wanted to live my life more passionately than I do now. And that's why, again, doing all this, and I understand the heat and all of this that's going to come with it, and the hypocrisy that I'm going to, that it's going to be labeled on me and all of that. But you know what? I was a rebel many years ago, and it was for not good things. And I got news for you. You know, the Bible is very clear about saying what the enemy meant for evil, the Lord turns for good. I'm just a bigger rebel now. It's just I'm on the other team.
Hey, Shawn, it's John Pop. Question for you. You mentioned some of the charities you work with and what important part that's going to play in the show, and you talked about donating some of the animals you take, and we do a lot of work here with that, with hunters and farmers feeding the hungry. Tell us a little bit about some of those charities that you're working with and that you've worked with in the past.
Well, I mean, obviously, this year for WrestleMania, we did a raffle and we raised money for the Ronald McDonald House Operation Homefront that helps housing for our troops that are injured, and a fine organization called CTO, Cross Trail Outfitters, that takes young boys and exposes them to the outdoors. And Keith and I also work with the Outdoor Adventure Foundation that takes veterans with disabilities out on hunts and young kids that are struggling with life-threatening diseases. And obviously we also work with the ALS Cancer Research Foundation. And again, it's just, and we're open to look for more in the future. I mean, it's, again, that's what I want to do. I mean, and again, I'm not Mr. Holier than thou. I'm not going to save the world, but the fact of the matter is, I really do take seriously the fact that I was given a second chance over a decade ago, and you know what? I don't screw it up. You know what I mean? I've just never wanted to do that. I was given that opportunity, and gosh darn it, I'm not going to blow it.
Shawn, we'd be remiss in not talking a little politics with you before, because you said you were a Republican. Looking at the field right now, who interests you? Who excites you? What do you see for 2012? And do you think that President Obama is a one-term president?
Well, I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, the way things are going now, I don't see, how people could say that he's doing a good job and put him back in there. Personally, I see the field, and I'm like a lot of people. I'm waiting. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that I like. I mean, Pawlenty is good, and I guess I worry about the fact that that a lot of the Republicans don't have enough of the what seems to be so important nowadays is the celebrity and things like that. And I think that's a shame. I mean, I want somebody in there who's going to do a good job. I don't care if he's flashy. I don't care if he's cool. I just want him to do a good job. And
well, you have flashy and cool in the office now, and it's not really doing a good job, is it?
No, it isn't. And again, and I understand the idea of really that you feel like you're helping everybody out and things of that nature. But you know what? We're supposed to do that. I mean, I do that on my own. You don't have to force me to be charitable. I will do that on my own because I enjoy doing it. I think the majority of Americans will do that. If you leave us with more of our own, we will take care of one another. We're the most gracious and giving country on the face of this planet. We always have been. You know what I mean? And we will help our own. You don't have to force us to do it. And I think that's the thing. Honestly, and I know it. Again, a lot of the people who aren't, who are WWE fans that aren't conservative aren't going to like that I say it. But the fact of the matter is, the social way of doing things does not work. It never has, and it never will.
Shawn Michaels, WWE Hall of Famer, host of Shawn Michaels McMillan River Adventures. Shawn, give us, if you had to sell us in 30 seconds or to a minute, why should we watch your show? There's so many outdoor shows right now, Outdoor Channel, there's so much programming. Why should we watch your show in particular?
Because I'll beat you up if you don't.
There you go.
A little sweet chin music.
Yeah, exactly.
Good answer.
No, I mean honestly, I'll tell you, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be enjoyable. It is not going to be your cookie cutter hunting show. There's enough people that do that. They've done it long enough. They probably know how to do it better than me. I wanted to bring something to outdoor television unlike anything they've ever seen. It's going to be the slickest production that you've ever seen. If there's going to be a story to it, it's going to draw you in. It's going to be fun. It's going to be serious. It's going to be dramatic. And I think it's going to be unlike anything outdoor television has seen in the past.
And when does it debut?
It is part of the Mossy Oak block on Tuesday nights, June 28th, 11:30 Eastern Time, and has a repeat on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right, before we let you go, Shawn, I got one last wrestling question for you. Talking about the success of Tough Enough, a reality show where people audition for a WWE contract. Does a show like that annoy you, or are you happy for kids like that to get a chance, or would you prefer they did it like you did and wrestled your butt off everywhere, as far as and wide as everywhere you could find a place to watch you, or do you resent these kids having a contract handed to them because of a TV show?
No, I don't. I mean, one, I thoroughly enjoyed the show this year. I mean,
it was good.
I'm not big on. I really did. I mean, Steve's phenomenal. I mean, anything with Austin on it, I love. Period. And but the thing is, I thought the show was really done well, and I enjoyed it. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, I'm never going to be one of those grizzly old timers that these kids, they didn't do it like I did back in my day. They had to walk 10 miles to school in the snow. I mean, I always swore I wouldn't be one of those guys. The fact of the matter is, the business has changed, and it's not these young guys' fault. It's not their fault that the business has changed and they move up faster and they get to the WWE in a year when we didn't back in our time. I mean, it's just different, and that's okay. It's not their fault. Do I think the business suffers a little bit because they don't get all the experience that we had? Yeah, I do, but I don't think it's their fault. I mean, there's just not as many places to go anymore. And I tell you what, they're thrown into the frying pan pretty quick now, and either they deliver or they don't.
Right.
So, I mean, I think the days of having a 25, 30-year career are going to be hard to come by these days.
All right, Shawn, thank you so much for being with us. Good luck. It looks like a great new show. We will check it out. And thank you, sir, for taking some time to come here on NRA News and SiriusXM Patriot and spending your Friday evening with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it a great deal. I really do.